Welcome back to Learning Docker. In today's tutorial, we're going to be looking at attaching volumes to containers. Now, in our last tutorial, you might remember that we actually created a container called Nginx, and in fact, I'll show it here, where we basically copied a directory to a directory on the container through the process of sort of creating the image. Now, the problem with that is that if you were, for instance, to change any of the contents of that directory in tutorial 2, you wouldn't actually have any changes applied automatically to the server. What you'd have to do is turn the container off, delete the image, and rebuild it. So that's not always that practical, especially if you have dynamic content that wants to continually change. So, in today's tutorial, we're going to be tackling just that. Now, let's first start by creating another Docker file. Now, I've already pre-created one for this tutorial, and in this Docker file, we're going to be not using Nginx this time. We're going to be sourcing from a different Docker container, a Docker image, sorry. We're going to be using the PHP Docker image. Now, we're not going to actually be running this in the foreground mode. We're in the background mode. We're going to be running it in the foreground mode. And by this, I just simply mean that we're not detaching it when we run it. So let's start by looking at what we've created in our Docker file. We're creating a Docker image based off the PHP 7.2 client image that's already out. We're going to be copying .source to user source my app, and then we're going to set a working directory as that same directory, and then finally we're going to run the command run.php. Now, you probably realize at this point, if you know anything about Docker, is that this is not going to attach a volume to a Docker container. I just wanted to use this as a starting point to get things going. So now we've done that, we can do as we have done previously. We can simply just kick up this Docker container to verify that it's actually running in a static context. So if I run docker build -t for tag run-php, and then state the directory that you're currently in. So it should first go and get me the copy of PHP 7.2, and then it should copy the source directory over to the user source my app, set the working directory as user source my app, and then finally run the command run.php. Actually, no, it will not run that command until we actually run the Docker container. So hopefully this won't take too long to finish through. And it's ready to go. So let's have a look at first the image. So we should see an image there called run.php. It's called Docker images. So the top image that we have is run.php. So let's run it to see if it actually works. So as you can see in my source code file here, run just simply says running in Docker. So hopefully you would expect that same output. Goodbye, error. And then we just simply need to do, I'll just clear this so you can see the terminal, docker run it, so essentially maintain the standard input output and also sudo terminal. Then we can do -rm. This essentially just means create a clean slate every time that we run this, rather than trying to persist any changes from our previous run. Then we're going to state a name for it, and this is just going to be run app, and then we're going to be using the image run-php. So hopefully, if all's gone right, you should see running in Docker. So that's hit the PHP script and execute it. So fantastic. We have a Docker image that can run some PHP code from a specific location. But if I go into this, change running in Docker, and I say still, save that, run it again, it still says running in Docker because it's not using this file. It's basically copied this file to an image, and it's going to use that image every time it runs. So this is where we're going to start looking at attaching volumes to our containers. So if I simply clean up the images first, so docker rmi and then run-php, Okay, so we've cleared that up. Let's just clear the console. And this time, instead of building the Docker container, what I'm going to do is just simply run it off the pre-existing Docker container, but I'm also going to attach a volume to it. So let's have a quick look at what we need to do. So we first, and you probably noticed from this, is that holy hell, you're using Windows and got this big massive path file. Well, yeah, we kind of need the path file, and it's very important, the path file, to running or to attaching a container. It has to be the exact path that you're planning to attach, otherwise it falls on its face. So to do this, you can simply in Linux type pwd. In Windows, you can do the same in Mac as well. In Windows, I think you can do get-location, and I think that works. But obviously in the terminal as well, it gives you the exact same thing. So we've got the exact path, and it needs the C:, and everything else is part of the path. So let's create the command. So we're going to create Docker. We're going to run a IT, so we're using it in the foreground context with the terminal and the standard input. We're going to use RM to clean our instance every time we run it. We're going to essentially call it PHP runner. We're going to attach a volume. That's what -v is for. We're going to use the path. So all the way up to tutorial 3 and a directory called source, and we're going to map that to user source my app -w and then -w is for working directory, and then simply states user source my app, and then we're going to be using the image PHP 7.2-CLI. We're going to execute the command php and run.php. So if I now run that, you should see the same thing running in container. But because this is an attached volume, I can change this, still running. And if I run it again, you should have running in Docker, still running. So it actually changes the context of the output, because it's not copied the file, it's using it as an attached image. You should have all the information you need here for all the flags. That's all going to be part of the README for the tutorial. I'm just going to cut it short there because I don't want these tutorials to be too long. So let's just clean up we don't actually have to clean anything up because we didn't actually create an image off this. We just simply attached a volume to a pre-existing pre-built image. Now, I hope you found this useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or queries, leave it in the comment box down below. If you have any suggestions, do the same. All the links, references and so forth will be in the description box below. Probably just going to link the GitHub repository, which does have a set of resources in that needs actually adding a few things to. Other than that, I hope you found this useful, and I'll catch you next time.